Hello there, folks. I am hard at work on my new book. I found out yesterday I have 122,000 words written so far. I just did a word count on all the files that I've put together so far, which means I've got enough tonnage in terms of word tonnage to make a book out of it, but it's still not quite a book. And so I'm hammering down trying to make it into a book. And forgive me if today's video is a little bit not as put together as some of them. Also, I wanted to let you know that on Sunday, October 18th, which is this coming Sunday, I am going to be speaking at the Houston Zen Center. I'm going to be speaking kind of online at the Houston Zen Center, so anybody can come in and watch that. I know that I'm supposed to tune in at 7:45 a.m. Pacific time, which is 9:45 their time in Houston. So anybody can look at that, and I'll give you the links below to how to find that if you want to go look at that. And remind you that we are having a Zen retreat also carried online on the interwebs on the first weekend of November at the Angel City Zen Center. And if you go to aczc.org, you can find all the information you need to know about how to join that. And plus, we're doing all kinds of things at aczc.org every Monday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Saturday, and probably other days that I don't even know about. We're doing stuff on there that you can join. And I see people going, how can I join a Zen Center? And I'm going, geez, it's never been easier. It's suddenly got as easy as it ever could possibly be to come and join a Zen Center. So join it, for gosh sakes. What I am going to be talking about at the Houston Zen Center, at least my plan, is to talk about Dogen's being time, which is one of the most difficult pieces of writing Dogen ever did. And I want to lead off with talking about this quote from the book I Am That, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Now, that is not part of the Zen tradition, that's part of the Advaita Vedanta tradition, which is not related to Zen, really, except that they both come out of India. Sort of. I mean, Advaita Vedanta definitely comes out of India. Zen Buddhism arguably comes out of India. Some people argue that the Zen stream of Buddhism didn't start until after it left India, but that's neither here nor there. Here's what Nisargadatta Maharaj said. I posted this on Twitter, a short version of it, a couple of weeks ago. And the short version of it, said, I'm looking for the quote here, in reality, time and space exist in you. You do not exist in them. That's what I put on Twitter, and somebody said, you have to unpack that. So I'm going to see if I can unpack that a little bit today. And here's the longer quote from Nisargadatta Maharaj. Your being a person is due to the illusion of space and time. You imagine yourself to be at a certain point occupying a certain volume. Your personality is due to your self-identification with the body. Your thoughts and feelings exist in succession. They have their span in time and make you imagine yourself, because of memory, as having duration. In reality, space and time exist in you. You do not exist in them. They are modes of perception, but they are not the only ones. Time and space are like words written on paper. The paper is real, the words merely a convention. What makes you say, I am here? Verbal habits born from assumptions. The mind creates time and space and takes its creations for reality. All is here and now, but we do not see it. Truly, all is in me and by me. There is nothing else. I think it's an interesting way of putting it, and by way of sort of contrast, let's look at how Dogen puts it in his essay Uji. Now, I'm going to read this from Shinshu Roberts' book Being Time, which uses a translation, I think, I'm not sure who this translation is by. I don't think it's by Kaz Tanahashi, but anyway, it doesn't matter. They're all quite similar. This is not my teacher's translation, is why, so apologies to people who like me to read the Nishijima Roshi translation. Sometimes I like to mix it up. We set the self out in array and make that the whole world. We must see all the various things of the whole world as so many times. These things do not get in each other's way any more than various times get in each other's way. Because of this, there is an arising of the religious mind at the same time, and it is the arising of time of the same mind. So it is with practice and attainment of the way. We set ourself in array, and we see that. Such is the fundamental reason of the way, that our self is time. Since such is the fundamental reason, we must study and learn that myriad phenomena and numberless grasses, things, exist all over the entire earth, and each of the grasses and each of the forms exists as the entire earth. Probably when he says earth, he doesn't really mean earth as a planet in space. He means more like everything, more like the universe. These comings and goings are the commencement of Buddhist practice. When you have arrived within this field of suchness, it is a single grass, a single form. Grass just means things. The forms are understood and not understood. The grasses are grasped and not grasped. As the time right now is all there ever is, each being time is without exception entire time. A grass being and a form being are both times. Entire being, the entire world, the entire universe, exists in the time of each and every now. Just reflect. Right now, is there an entire being or an entire world missing from your present time or not? That's weird stuff that I just read from both Nisargadatta Maharaj and Dogen. But they both, to me, seem to be talking about a similar phenomenon, which is that we are not beings who exist in time. Time exists in us. That's how Nisargadatta Maharaj puts it. And he's a more modern figure. He died in 1981, so he's closer in time to us. So his expression is a little bit probably more understandable to us, even though he comes from India and maybe most of you don't. But I like his expressions a lot. Now, we usually think of ourselves as beings in time. We think that time is something we occupy. So here I am, and there's time, and there's space as well. It's out there. So time exists independently of me. But if we think about that just a little bit, even logically, that doesn't make sense. What part of me exists outside of time? Like, how am I separate from time? We sort of think of ourselves as a static thing that moves through time, but that makes no sense. Time is part of us. And what these philosophers are saying is that ultimately time comes out of us. Our being is time. That, I have to admit, is hard even for me to understand after 35 or more years of Buddhist practice and sitting meditation every day and having some weird experiences around it and things I've written about in books and blah, blah, blah. It's still difficult for me to kind of conceptualize that because I'm used to conceptualizing time as a separate thing. Like, let's see, I know that I have to be somewhere at 3 o'clock. Actually, I don't have to be anywhere at 3 o'clock today. But, you think of things in terms of that, so time is separate. So 3 o'clock is somewhere over there, and here I am being something that's going to move eventually into 3 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock I will have to go to, whatever place I have to go at 3 o'clock. What Dogen is saying, what Nisargadatta Maharaj is saying, is that's just an illusion. It's a useful illusion, it helps us schedule things, and we can kind of figure stuff out, but it doesn't really work that way. And I've been making my way through Carlo Rovelli's book, The Order of Time, which talks about Aristotelian time and Newtonian time. I'm only about a third of the way through the book, and it's quite interesting because he traces in Western history how our ideas of time have developed. And Aristotelian time is time that takes into account things that we take for granted, like an hour waiting in line at the DMV is longer than an hour spent playing with your brand new puppy. That kind of thing. And we take that as an illusion and say, well, that's not real. What's real is Newtonian time. And Newtonian time is this idea of time being something that we occupy that moves along at a constant pace no matter what we do. That wasn't always the way people thought of time, even in the West. Nisargadatta Maharaj, being a modern person, is very much aware of our modern view of time. Dogen, what they had that was a clock in those days was much more primitive than anything that's around nowadays. So he probably was more in line with the Aristotelian view of time. But still, it was starting to become a thing. Time was starting to become a concept in much the same way as we think of it now, even in Dogen's time back in 800 years ago in Japan. So he's telling us that this is incorrect, that time is actually part of us. Time exists within us. And I'm going to work on a talk about that thing over the next couple of days, and hopefully by Sunday morning at 7:45, I'm going to be able to deliver that talk for the Houston Zen Center. So you can all tune in and see me crash and burn and be like make a mess of the whole thing. If you want to, that might be fun. If you want to help me make messes of things, you can send me a donation at the address you are seeing on your screen. If you're on not YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, down below this video is links to my Patreon account and my PayPal account. Those are the main ways that I am making my living these days, because book royalties don't cut it, and speaking fees obviously aren't cutting it very much this year. I thank you all for your support, but remember, if you're in financial dire straits, do not send me a donation, because I don't want donation from people who are in financially dire straits. But I do appreciate those of you who are not in financially dire straits and who are keeping sending me donations, because that's what keeps me buying cereal and food for Ziggy and everything else. Ziggy is my dog. See you later. Have a good time all the time. Bye.